How to raise smart kids. You can define smart in a lot of different ways. After all, what does smart actually mean? Does it mean good grades? Does it mean telling witty jokes? Or does it mean you can speak multiple languages? I suppose, depending on who you ask, it can mean any or none of these things. So let me clarify. When I talk about raising smart kids, what I really mean is raising kids who can think critically. I'm talking about kids who can reason, solve problems, and make sound judgments. And if you were hoping for guidance on good grades, this will help with that too. Here are 4 things you can do to raise smart kids. 1. Teach kids how to reflect. As an educator, something I always noted about my top achieving students was their approach to studying. It wasn't necessarily how much they studied, it was the way they studied. My straight-A kids always knew exactly what they were going to tackle, while everybody else just reviewed everything, or nothing. In other words, the top achievers take an extra step. They reflect on and clearly define what they don't know to inform what and how they study. It turns out, purposeful reflection isn't just crucial for good grades. It's something all top performers do. In her book Grit, researcher Angela Duckworth explains how individuals at the apex of their fields approach practice with disciplined intentionality. She describes how there's practice, rote repetition, and purposeful practice, a cycle of action, reflection, and adjustment. In this sense, being smart is more about accurately spotting weaknesses and addressing them than it is about pure mental horsepower. So how do you cultivate reflection? Encourage your kids to talk about their challenges and how they might overcome them. One way that I do this is with a family routine called Glow and Grow that you can read about in my post about raising happy kids on parentlikeateacher.com. Another tip is to be mindful about how you respond to mistakes. Instead of focusing on the problem, "Emma, you left your jacket at school again," focus on the solution. "Emma, what do you think we can do so you remember your jacket next time?" Teach your kids that mistakes are learning opportunities, not failures. 2. Teach kids to love learning. Have you ever noticed that little kids adore school, but older kids typically dread it? Maybe this was even you growing up. The reason is that institutional education tends to squeeze the love of learning out of children. As kids experience upper elementary and middle school, they discover that school is just as much, and sometimes more, about following rules, pleasing adults, and living up to expectations as it is about genuine learning. As a result, kids start to think of learning as boring. For more on this topic, see Creative Schools by Sir Ken Robinson. When it comes to cultivating a love for learning, the best strategy I've found has been to learn with my kids. Our current subject is cooking, which I love because learning new recipes is fun for me, it's hands-on, and it involves all sorts of other skills like measuring quantities, close reading, cause and effect, all the sorts of things they'll be learning in school. If you don't have time for that, don't worry. Some of our best love-to-learn moments simply involved watching and talking about YouTube videos from how it's made food. Yes, we love food. So find some videos on topics that interest you and your kids, and learn together. 3. Let kids play. Contrary to what a lot of parents think, early education isn't all about numbers, letters, and colors. It's just as much about executive function, the ability to focus, organize thoughts, problem solve, and control emotions. So where does play enter the picture? Play is how young minds enter into flow, a mental state where you're fully engaged and immersed in an activity. In other words, the process of play, especially pretend play, is a child's way of making sense of the world and forming mental connections. It's their brain's way of developing executive function. The other day, I was observing my 4-year-old Evelyn playing Family of Dolphins. At first, I had no clue what was going on. She was basically making squeaking noises at her stuffed dolphin while walking around the house, occasionally lying on her belly and wiggling her butt. I later discovered that Evelyn was pretending to be a big sister to Fluffy Dolphin Dolphin. Yes, that's what she named her stuffed dolphin. As a big sister, her job was to introduce Fluffy Dolphin Dolphin to new places like school, the park, and the library, which were represented by different rooms in the house. If we break down the thinking process during Evelyn's play, here's what we discover. 1. She's defining her understanding of a big sister's role. Big sisters help younger siblings. 2. She's reflecting on what it's like to go someplace new. New places can be scary. You need somebody to help. 3. She's internalizing her understanding of how dolphins talk. They squeak. 4. She's using spatial awareness and representation. Different rooms represent different new places. And 5, she's teaching through modeling. Lying on your belly and wiggling your butt is how you teach baby dolphins to swim. Put simply, play might look nonsensical to us, but it's serious business for our children's brains. For more on building executive function, see Brain Rules for Baby, How to Raise a Smart and Happy Child from 0 to 5 by Dr. John Medina. 4. Get kids to bed on time. I think we can all agree that a good night's sleep matters, but you might be surprised to discover just how true that is, especially for kids. According to a study from Tel Aviv University, losing sleep can lower a child's academic performance by 2 grade levels. In this study, slightly sleepy 6th graders performed more like 4th graders on achievement tests. Lead researcher, Dr. Avi Sadeh, reports on the short-term impact of sleep loss. A loss of 1 hour of sleep is equivalent to losing 2 years of cognitive maturation and development. Not only that, but there's also a clear correlation between sleep and grades. According to research discussed in Nurture Shock, New Thinking About Children by Poe Bronson, teens who received A's averaged about 15 more minutes sleep than the B students, who in turn averaged 15 more minutes than C's, and so on. So how do you get your kids to bed on time? I found that the best strategy is to develop a habit loop, which involves a cue, a routine, and a reward. My kids' habit loop is pretty straightforward. The cue is when I tell them to wash up. Not very fancy, I know. The routine is tidy up the play and study area, shower, put on lotion and pajamas, brush teeth, and choose and lay out tomorrow's outfit. The reward is that we read books together before bed. And in case you're wondering, my kids did not adopt these habits right away. It took purposeful practice, coaching, reflection, and patience. For more on this process, see my posts on how to influence child behavior on parentlikeateacher.com. Lastly, if you're wondering how much sleep kids need according to age, see this chart by the National Sleep Foundation. Conclusion. To sum up, if you want your kids to be thinkers, growers, and problem solvers, do these 4 things. Teach kids to reflect, teach kids to love learning, let kids play, and get kids to sleep on time. Thank you, parents, for making the world a better place. Did you like this video or know a parent who would? Then click the subscribe button right below this video, or join us at parentlikeateacher.com.